Well, I did say, if you look back on the last episode, that August was going to be a little bit of a test and a tough month here, and definitely was the case here. Anyway, it's time for another episode of... Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Stampeders this month. Season 2, episode 4 there, and let's say a special bobblehead edition. As I did in the opening there, I'll take a look at my John Cornish bobblehead here, as recently he got inducted into the CFL Hall of Fame there, so congratulations to you, John Cornish. You have your head forever enshrined in the CFL Hall of Fame in Hamilton. And that's basically something that all football players strive, is to forever have their head enshrined in the Hall of Fame there. So anyway, let's get back to talking about August here. This monthly segment is a little earlier than usual because a combination of now they've played their games and they're on the bye here, and I'm also going to be going on holidays the last week of August here, so I figured I want to get this video done and upload it till then. So let's recap how August 2019 went for the Calgary Stampeders here, and I was anticipating this was going to be a tough month considering strength of schedule and injuries, and it definitely lived up to that. As if you go back to episode 3 in July there, Calgary was 4-2, tied for second in the Western Division there, and still trucking along with Nick Arbuckle and injury to running back and all the turnover on defense. We still been looking fine here, but we played some tougher teams here, and it's definitely showed in some games here, but we're just a couple steps away, and maybe we'll get a few players back, and we'll still have our dream season Roughneck style. If you look at the 2019 Calgary Roughnecks and how they won their championship, it's looking like if we're going to win the championship, that's how we're going to do it here. So anyway, before let's recap the games here. The Calgary Stampeders did make a trade at before the beginning of August here, is that the Calgary Stampeders traded offensive lineman Justin Renfrow to the BC Lions, and also they traded a 5th round 2020 draft pick, both going to the BC Lions, and in return we get for a conditional 4th round pick in 2020 and rights to a negotiation list player. And actually recently each team's released their 10 players on the negotiation list, so I'd say go to CFL.ca to see each team's negotiation list there, and if you're into college football there, those players have their rights with their respective teams in the CFL there, and basically it was just getting some assets for an extra offensive lineman that wasn't planning to play here, and BC definitely needs some help in their category. I'm surprised Mike Riley is still walking, considering times he's been sacked there. So let's talk about some games here, and the first game in August here, the Calgary Stampeders this was a rare pre-Labor Day matchup against the Edmonton Eskimos. This happened on Saturday, August the 3rd, week 8. We were taking on the Edmonton Eskimos right here in Calgary here. First of 3 here, so this definitely could come down to playoff positioning here, and whoever wins the season series would get the first tie break here, and this could make or break who gets a home playoff date and who doesn't. So I'm going to sum up this game. This was a 5 p.m. kickoff at McMahon Stadium here. It was definitely a defensive game for the most part, and also another thing you can highlight with this game is Romar Morris, running back for Calgary Stampeders. Welcome back for this game, because he looked like he couldn't have been playing at all this year, but he was able to get back early from his rehab, and at the time we still didn't have Don Jackson, and Kadeem Carey just got hurt, so we had some running back help. But let's summarize this game here, is that no scoring happened in the first quarter. It was definitely a defensive struggle here, and the running game wasn't a factor for both sides here in this game when I go to the stats here. And then in the second quarter there, it was 3 field goals by Rene Paredes, so it was 9-0 for Calgary at halftime. That's pretty much all I can summarize this game. And then they also, in the second quarter here, it looked like Terry Williams had a punt return for a touchdown there, but Calgary had a penalty for blocking there, so that wiped that out. However, things got opened up a little bit in the third quarter of this game. Actually, Edmonton first stroke early as after they conceded a safety because they were pushed back in the Calgary territory there. Conceded a safety for field position on a punt. Edmonton had a long drive, or a long pass. Trevor Harris found Ricky Collins Jr. on an 83-yard play, so it was 9-9 when he had the safety, the touchdown to and the point after there, so it was 9-9 earlier. However, Terry Williams, he answered back. This time it counted for real. It was on the student kickoff. He returned it for a touchdown there. So just like that, Calgary got back in the lead. It was 15-9 for the Calgary Stampeders. However, it was only 15-9 because they failed on the 2-point conversion there. And then the defense continued until late in the third quarter here. And then Nick Arbuckle drove the Stampeders down the field because he's been the quarterback for the Stampeders and for Bo Levi Mitchell. Found Eric Rogers in the end zone on a 25-yard play there. However, he did fail on the 2-point conversion there, so Calgary still enjoyed the lead, but it was 21-9 after the third quarter there. However, Edmonton got back into the game into the fourth quarter here early as Trevor Harris, once again, he found Ricky Collins Jr. on a shorter play, only 26 yards this time, but they failed on the extra point on a dead ball there. So they cut the game down to 21-15 there, so Calgary was still up there by 6. And Edmonton got closer on the next drive. Sean White kicked a field goal at the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter. So it made it a 21-18 game for Calgary. And then Calgary was able to try to take as much time off the clock there and lead in the fourth quarter there. And eventually, in the last minute, scored a field goal there. So the Calgary Stampeders made it a 24-18 game with less than 30 seconds to go here. However, Edmonton still had a chance to end the game and had the ball, and they were able to get into Calgary red zone territory there. And although it's hard to say if we got robbed here on the play, I mean, we still managed to take this game, but it looked like Edmonton got out of bounds, and it looked like there was no time left on the clock there. And then after supposedly commensurate review, there were still 2 seconds left. So Edmonton had one more shot in the end zone, and they couldn't find the end zone. So Calgary eventually took this game, 24-18, and took the first round of the Battle of Alberta. And let's do this again on Labor Day, shall we? And let's go over individual stats here. As Nick Arbuckle in this game had an okay game. He was 19 for 28 for 189 yards. Had a touchdown and an interception here. Calgary as a team only had 55 yards rushing there, so it wasn't much of a welcome back for Omar Morris here. Reggie Bagleton led the way in receiving. He had 6 catches for 62 yards here. And Eric Rogers, he had 2 catches for 33 yards, including the 1 touchdown there, as mentioned there. And then on the defensive side of the ball there, Corey Greenwood, who actually is leading the league in tackles, he had 6 in this game. And then Terry Williams had the 1 kickoff for a touchdown there to highlight for special teams. So that's who stood out for the Calgary Stampeders. On the Edmonton side of the ball here, actually the numbers look a little better there. Definitely bended but didn't break on the defense here. Trevor Harris, he was 29 for 42 for 373 yards and 2 touchdowns here. And one side note here with Trevor Harris he actually has not beaten the Calgary Stampeders when he started. As close as he got was those 2 ties there in 2016 and 2017 when he was a red-black there, and obviously we beat Trevor Harris in the game that started the most, the 106th Grey Cup in Edmonton there, back when he was a red-black there. Keep in mind that Trevor Harris did not start in the 104th Grey Cup when that game was in Toronto. It was Henry Burris that beat Calgary there, and that was the only time that Henry Burris actually beat the Stampeders when he started. And in that sense, it was fortunately one of the only mattered most, but I want to put that out there. Actually, Edmonton, despite having CJ Gable, we only stopped Edmonton. They only had 28 yards rushing as a team there, so we stopped Edmonton on the ground there. And I'm going to say it was definitely a defensive struggle. That's why there was a lot more pass in this game. And then Ricky Collins Jr. led the way in receiving there in 6 catches. He had 148 yards, 2 touchdowns there. So if you had him in fantasy, big day for you. And actually, Kevin Elliott also for receiving, he stood up with 6 catches for 88 yards. And on the defensive side of the ball here, Vontae Diggs, he led the Edmonton Eskimos with 10 tackles there. And Arhang Kalkoin, he had 3 tackles and the interception there. So that was the first game in August there. So Calgary took the first round of the Battle of Alberta, and they said, let's do this again on Labor Day. And then, for the 3rd time this season, the Calgary Stampeders play on a Thursday night here, and I'm personally not a big fan of the Thursday night games, especially with my work schedule requiring me to start work at 7 and need to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. But this is the 3rd Thursday night game. Plus, Calgary Stampeders have played a Thursday night game followed when they played on Saturday with travel in between. And in this case, the Calgary Stampeders were going to Winnipeg here on Thursday, August 8th, Week 9. They were taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at now called IG Field at a 6:30 kickoff here. And this was the first matchup since the Western Final last year. And we definitely know who Janarian Grant is now after this game. And Romar Morris, unfortunately, he got hurt in this game. This time was his other leg and looking like he might be done for the season. He definitely said it right that as brutal football is, it is an unfair game. I would definitely have to say it is unfair for Romar Morris because he worked so hard to get back in it, and we need as much support on running back here right now at this point, and he got hurt, unfortunately, in this game. So anyway, let's get to the actual game itself here. Winnipeg did score first here as Justin Medlock, their kicker, scored a field goal in the first 5 minutes in. And then Calgary punted the ball here, and Janarian Grant returned it for a touchdown, and Winnipeg enjoyed a 10-0 lead early in the first quarter here. However, Calgary did answer back when Nick Arbuckle calls his own number, runs in the 13-yard touchdown, and at the extra point, Calgary had a Winnipeg was up 10-7, and that was the score after the first quarter here. Then early in the second quarter, Calgary had a lead here as Nick Arbuckle took Calgary down the field and ran in the 1 yard for a touchdown. Extra point, Calgary made it 14-10 just after the 2.5 minute marker. So things were looking good here despite being burned on the punt return there. Justin Medlock kicked a field goal but the midway point made it a 14-13 game for Calgary. However, late in the second quarter, Calgary got burned again. Janarian Grant once again returned another punt return for a touchdown there, and just like that, extra point. Calgary was down 20-14 against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers there. However, Calgary was looking to drive late here into the second quarter there. However, they got intercepted, and Winnipeg was able to sit on it, and Winnipeg was up 20-14 at halftime here. Third quarter, the only scoring I can highlight here is Justin Medlock kicked a 55-yard field goal there. So it was 23-14 Winnipeg, and that was the score after 3 there. And then Calgary looked a lot better in the fourth quarter here, and maybe pull off a comeback here, and they did get close here as first we could say that both teams traded field goals, so it was 26-17 for Winnipeg at one point there. And then Calgary had some life here as Nick Arbuckle, he found Eric Rogers, an 11-yard touchdown pass there. And Calgary made it 26-24 for Winnipeg there. And then Calgary had the ball with just under 2 minutes to go, and hopefully maybe we can drive the ball and win the field goal and go home with a 1-point victory there. However, we got intercepted on that drive there with under 2 minutes to go, and pretty much that questioned any comeback hopes here. Winnipeg was able to run up the clock here, and they took this game 26-24. I also forgot to mention that just like Edmonton, Calgary is going to play Winnipeg 3 times this season, but we'll be going to Winnipeg twice, and this won't be the next time we won't be playing Winnipeg, won't be till October here, so it'll be a lot more interesting and possibly a lot more heated depending on how the standings look when we get to October here. So, and also I mentioned that thankfully this is the last Thursday night game for the Calgary Stampeders, so I definitely relied on recapping more storylines, and because I didn't watch this game as much because it was a Thursday nighter, and like I said, this is the last time that Calgary plays Thursday night, and especially when they played Thursday night, when they played the Saturday before and they traveled. So numbers to hide this game. I'm going to say Calgary actually, if you look at the numbers here, we actually had better numbers than Winnipeg there, but the big storyline was the 2 punt returns for a touchdown by Janarian Grant, and had a couple, interceptions late at the most critical time here. So anyway, Nick Arbuckle for Calgary, he was 22 for 35, 206 yards, threw a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he ran in 2 touchdowns himself there. Calgary on the ground only had 56 yards rushing there, while Romar Morris definitely quashed those plans there for the running game, and Terry Williams definitely was a little more overworked, being the running back, and the fact that he was also the returner there, leading the way in receiving, while Reggie Bagleton once again, 3 catches for 70 yards. Eric Rogers had 6 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown there on the defensive side of the ball there. Corey Greenwood with 12 tackles. Jamar Wall, 7 tackles and a sack there. So that's you set up for Calgary. Winnipeg, Matt Nichols, he was 18 for 22 for 177 yards. I mean, he just managed the game there. Andrew Harris, this is definitely another factor on why Winnipeg was able to win this close one. He definitely was able to do it on the ground and in the air here. On the ground, he had 19 carries for 100 yards. And then in receiving, I mean, it was a balanced receiving attack, but I just want to highlight that Andrew Harris also had 8 catches for 144 yards, for 44 yards. So he had 100 yards rushing and 44 yards receiving. And then when it comes on the defensive side of the ball there, Marcus Sales definitely had a great game for Winnipeg. He had 8 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 of the interceptions. Chandler Fenner also had 8 tackles, so there were 2 players that had 8 tackles there. And Winston Rose, he had a tackle on the other interception, and then Janarian Grant had the 2 punt returns for a touchdown there, so that was definitely the storyline of the game there. So the last game that the Calgary Stampeders play in August before having a bye, and this will be the last game before the big Labor Day Classic here, happened on Saturday, August the 17th, Week 10, and we were taking on the Montreal Alouettes at McMahon Stadium, 5 p.m. kickoff, or I also like to call them the Birds. I'm definitely going to say, just like Pigeons, I definitely have some anger against the Birds right now. So anyway, there was some hope that maybe Bo Levi Mitchell was going to come back, and he was practicing a little more, and actually at the start of August, he was saying that he was targeting this game to come back. However, he didn't feel good in practice. He was still having issues with his shoulder there, and the throwing shoulder, and that definitely could be a problem with your quarterback here. So Nick Arbuckle still got the start. However, Don Jackson got to come back in this game, and he definitely made an impact here and there, and definitely needed him because Kadeem Carey was still injured, and Romar Morris is injured, and who knows when he'll come back. And Anthony Malone, the Fitch leader, also got hurt this month as well, so we definitely needed some running back support here. And then I missed this personally because my pregame routine is I like to go and watch the warm-up, taking a rally, and watch a little bit of warm-up, and then go back in the concourse and, take a pit stop and maybe grab something and make my climb up to my seats there. And apparently there was a pregame scuffle that I missed there in between my pit stop and grabbing some concessions here. So two teams were definitely at it here, and I know that Montreal had Patrick Levels, Tommy Campbell. Apparently they were in part of that scuffle, former Stampeders, maybe having some hard feelings there. Shanti Evans is the other player who used to be at the Stampeders, but he played in the AAF there, but he wasn't part of that scuffle there. So definitely got interesting here, and now let's actually get to the game here, and definitely was one heck of a game here, so let's pay attention to what happened here. Calgary struggled both on offense and defense early here, and then Montreal was driving early here, and thankfully Raheem Wilson was able to save a touchdown as Jeremiah Johnson, the running back for the Montreal Alouettes, looked like he was free and got to the fifth level there on defense there, and Raheem Wilson stretched out and just tackled him. However, Boris Beatty was able to get a field goal, and Montreal scored first, so it was 3-0 Montreal there. Later in the first quarter there, Calgary answered back there with Reggie Bagleton touchdown and the extra point. So Calgary took the lead, had a 7-3 lead there. And then a kickoff single made it 8-3, so it was 8-3 for Calgary after the first quarter. And late in the first quarter, Troy Roberson picked off Vernon Adams Jr. pass, so he has 6 interceptions on the season there. So it was 8-3 Calgary after one. And then both teams traded field goals, so it was 11-6 Calgary. And then Montreal driving late in the second quarter here. Vernon Adams Jr. got picked off late in the second quarter, this time by Deshaun Amos, his third of the year, which definitely aided in setting up a Rene Paredes field goal to end the second quarter in the first half. So it was 14-6 Calgary at halftime here. And then things really heat up and got interesting here. As in the third quarter here, Montreal definitely looked like the better team here and came out strong here, and Calgary's defense definitely got suspect on many big plays there, including by a few big catches by DeVere Posey. Definitely brings back some 105th Grey Cup memories of nightmares when I was in the snow in Ottawa there when he was in Toronto Argonauts. DeVere Posey's definitely always been a Stampeder killer here, and he definitely had a big game against the Calgary Stampeders, but a few players had big games in this game here. Vernon Adams Jr. did eventually find Jake Wenweek. He on a 15-yard play there and a 2-point conversion here. So just like that, we have a 14-14 tie game here. And then Boris Beatty had a field goal late to make it 17-14 Montreal here. And after the third quarter, Montreal was up 17-14 here. Let's note here is that Montreal has not won in Calgary since the season opener back in 2009 when it was the Grey Cup rematch. That was the last time the Montreal Alouettes beat the Calgary Stampeders in Calgary here. So let's remember that here. In the fourth quarter here, however, Calgary did answer back early here. First, Reggie Bagleton came huge on a couple occasions here, and I thankfully had him as one of my receivers in fantasy here. First, Nick Arbuckle bombs a 56-yard play to Reggie Bagleton here, and came up big, and point after, it was now 21-17 for Calgary early in the fourth quarter here. Now the next drive here, it was almost a similar play in terms of the route that Reggie Bagleton took here, but what happened here is Nick Arbuckle, he took the snap, shoveled it back to Don Jackson. Then Don Jackson shoveled it back to Nick Arbuckle, and Nick Arbuckle threw this time 69 yards to Reggie Bagleton. And then the point after, so just like that, Calgary had a 28-17 lead. Things are looking good here to continue that winning streak over the Montreal Alouettes here. However, Montreal was hanging around here, and they still made some big plays here, and it was 28-17 until we got down to past the 3-minute warning here, and as the lesson was in the BC game when we came back, you don't leave a CFL game early. And a lot of fans were leaving early this time thinking, we'll win. Well, let's stay with me here. Buckle your seatbelts, as they say. Well, Montreal was driving down the field here. I mean, there were actually a lot of questionable calls and penalties here, but that was definitely aided in Montreal going down the field here. And then in the last minute of the fourth quarter here, Vernon Adams Jr. finds Eugene Lewis on a 23-yard play there. And they were successful on the 2-point conversion there. So the game was 28-25. And there was still less than a minute to go, and Montreal had the kickoff, and we knew that the onside kick was coming here because Montreal, in order for them to have hope to stay in this game, was do the onside kick and receive their onside kick. And actually, they made this one a little tougher than it needed to be because they took a delay of game penalty, so the ball got moved back 10 yards. However, on the onside kick, Montreal was able to be successful at it, so they maintained possession. So then they still had a longer field here, and however they had some big plays, and eventually they got themselves into field goal range here. They did try to swing one in the end zone there and was unsuccessful, but eventually Boris Beatty was able to kick the tying field goal with a couple seconds left there to tie the game at 28 apiece. There were still a couple seconds left there, and Montreal was able to kick the ball off, and Calgary had a nice return, but it had to been return it to the house or we're going to overtime, and that didn't happen, so we're going to overtime here. So within the last minute here, Montreal was able to come back and from 11-point deficit and tie this game up at 28 and force overtime here. So that's the lesson here in the CFL, is you never leave a game early here, especially if it's within less than 14 points here. So then on the coin toss, decide who goes first. And in the CFL, you get potentially up to 2 mini games here. It's kind of half the college rules here. Where in the CFL, you start at the opposition's 35, so you're already theoretically in field goal range. And if you score a touchdown, you have to go for 2, and then the other team gets their chance to have the ball here, which is definitely still a little better than what NFL has. But if it's still tied after the first mini game, then you have a second mini game, and then whatever scores happen there. If it's still tied for 2 mini games, it's a tie game here. And I'm going to say, spoiler alert, this game definitely needed both mini games here. So Montreal did win the toss, but they decided to go second, and that's generally the strategy here, because you're definitely, if you go second, you know what to strive for. So Calgary had the ball first in the first mini game in overtime here, and was able to drive the ball down the field. And once again, we were eventually able to find Reggie Bagleton for his 4th interception, or 4th touchdown this game. Excuse me. So Reggie Bagleton had his 4th touchdown of the game here. Although we weren't successful on the 2-point conversion there, as John Bowman, the longtime veteran for the Montreal Alouettes, deflected the pass here. So it was 34-28 Calgary, and now Montreal has the ball here. And Montreal, they were able to drive down, and then it looked pretty close, especially on the third down here, that it looked pretty damn close. We didn't know if we actually stopped them or not, and it was reviewed, but it was ruled that Montreal broke the plane here, so Vernon Adams Jr. was able to run in the touchdown here, and then Montreal had to go for 2. That's the rules. Plus, if they got the 2-point conversion, they would have won the game. However, they were not successful. So we were tied at 34 after the first mini game here. And now, in this time, the first overtime we were going towards the north end zone to the red and white club. But then on the second overtime, we decided that Calgary wanted to defend the south end towards the clubhouse there. So Montreal had the ball first, going south this time on the Calgary 35 here. And then once again, Montreal was able to move the ball down. There was definitely some questionable penalties here, but once again, this time there was no doubt on Vernon Adams Jr. running in the short run yard play. So Vernon Adams Jr. did run in the touchdown there, but Calgary was able to stop Montreal in the 2-point conversion there. So Montreal had the 40-34 lead here. Calgary had the ball here, so basically it was Calgary had to get a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion to win the game here. And then when Calgary had the ball there, after a nice run by Don Jackson there, we were pretty much going into first and 10, pretty much almost first and goal territory here, but it was like we had took the ball there at 11 there after the run there. However, we got pushed back, and eventually it came down to a third down play there, and we were going for the end zone, and it looked like, who knows if Eric Rogers, he caught the ball, but then it was just in the back of the end zone. It was ruled he was out, but it looked like maybe he just had a foot in, and the command center looked at it and said, nope, it's no good. So eventually Calgary lost a tough one on 40-34 there, but that got me thinking of, if you go back to 2010, that S.J. Green had a remarkable touchdown catch in overtime. Well, actually it was a 2-point conversion if you go on YouTube there, when Montreal was playing Saskatchewan in the home opener there, season open 2010 there, and S.J. Green just got in the end zone and got the touchdown there. And then last year, BC on a Brian Burnham catch, looked like he just barely got his foot in, and it counted to tie the game, to force that game to overtime, I believe, on a 2-point conversion. And that it was in that same category. So, but I mean, we did also allow a lot of plays, and which there's a lot of what-ifs in this game, but fortunately Calgary lost this game 40-34 here, and Montreal got their first win in Calgary since 2009 here. So unfortunately, Calgary's now down to 5-4 here, and have lost 2 in a row going into the bye, going into Labor Day. So, but I'm going to be anticipating we're going to be a little fired up and pissed off here on Labor Day, and Edmonton would be the nice team to take it out on. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of big numbers here on both sides, because there was definitely, with the overtime, there was definitely over 1,000 yards offense here. So on the Calgary side of the ball, Nick Arbuckle was 31 for 36, 370 yards and 4 touchdowns. Don Jackson, welcome back. He had 13 carries for 77 yards there. And Reggie Bagleton, thank you for giving me my fantasy points that week. 8 catches, 173 yards for 4 touchdowns. And he actually almost had one, but he lost in the last second there. So maybe you could say he almost had 5 touchdowns in this game. And then on the defensive side of the ball here, Nate Hawley actually led the way with 12 tackles. Corey Greenwood, he had 8. So now, if you go on the Montreal side of the ball here, there's some big numbers on here too. Vernon Adams Jr., he was 32 for 50. He threw for 389 yards. And he had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he ran those 2 in overtime. And then Jeremiah Johnson, on 13 carries, he had 107 yards. And then they had a couple 100-yard receiving games for Montreal. Devere Posey had 10 catches for 181 yards, so he was the leading receiver in the game. And then Eugene Lewis, 10 catches, 114 yards for a touchdown. And then for defense, Greg Reed had 7 tackles. And then I had a couple former Stampeders who definitely stirred the pot here. Patrick Levels had 6 tackles and a sack. Tommy Campbell had 5 tackles. Those are the guys that were in the middle of the brawl there, or the scrum. And then John Bowman, he's He's been a long-time Alouette. 5 tackles, including that 1 pass deflection, and overtime there. And then week 11, Calgary's on a bye here. So overall, we're 5-4 at the halfway point of the season. 3-2 at home, 2-2 on the road. But we're 3-1 versus the West here, which puts us, said 4th in the West. However, we're in a playoff position on the crossover here because we are a full 2 games ahead of the Ottawa Red Blacks, who are 3-6, third in the East there. So looking ahead here, well, September is not going to be that much easier. Well, we do have 15 days off before Labor Day. So Monday, September 2nd is the Labor Day Classic. Week 12, taking on the Edmonton Eskimos. 2:30 kickoff at McMahon. So the game's kind of back to its traditional time. Last several years, it was a 1 p.m. kickoff. But the Toronto-Hamilton game will actually start before, where the last few years it was started after. And then the Labor Day rematch, which I will plan to make the trip up on Saturday, September 7th, week 13. We'll be taking on the Edmonton Eskimos in Edmonton at the Brick Field at Commonwealth Stadium. 5 p.m. kickoff, so I'll plan to make that trip. And then Saturday, September the 14th, week 14, we're going to be back home, taking on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I think this game is Family Day. And that's a 2 p.m. kickoff at McMahon Stadium. And then Friday, September the 20th, week 15, the Calgary Stampeders go on the road to Toronto at BMO Field. That'll be a 5 p.m. kickoff there. And then week 16, they have a bye for their 3rd bye week of the season here. So I will try to be a little early in making episode 5 of my Calgary Stampeders this month there. And I'm going to say if any major news happens between now and Labor Day, I'll capture that on the next episode here. So I think I'll just go over a few quick stats in the standings here where everybody's at. So I'll bring up the app here, my Calgary Stampeders app here. So just bear with me. So if you're looking at the standings here, right now in the West here, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they're first at 7-2. The Edmonton Eskimos are second at 6-3. Saskatchewan Roughriders are 5-3. And then here we are, 5-4. Fourth, and then I'm going to stick a fork in the BC Lions here because they're 1-8. And the other thing that stands out with the BC Lions is they're 0-7 against the West. And BC has already lost their season series with Edmonton and Saskatchewan here. So at least we have a nice lead on the BC Lions here. But I think if we get Bo back and Kamar Jordan, we hopefully can get him back. I think we'll definitely have a better second half here. So that's how the West looks. The East here, Hamilton Tiger Cats, they are 7-2 first. And then the Montreal Alouettes, they're 4-4 second. And then the Ottawa Red Blacks, they're third at 3-6. And then the Toronto Argonauts, they're last at 1-7 and the fourth in the East here. So if the playoffs were to start right now, Winnipeg would host the West Final, Hamilton would host the East Final, and then Edmonton would host the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the Western Semifinal, and the Montreal Alouettes will host the Calgary Stampeders in the Eastern Semifinal. So that's how the playoff picture will look right now. And speaking of playoffs and standings, once I get back from my vacation here, I'll make my revisit my predictions video, and I'm going to have to make some adjustments here. And there's definitely been some injuries too, so I'm going to put that into play and see where I change and who I still think, or who I think will now be here on November 24th for the big game here. So that's the standings here. So now when it comes to player stats here, when it comes to Calgary, so bear with me, so player statistics here. So when it comes to passing here overall, Nick Arbuckle is 174 for 237 for 2,103 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's still passing at a 73.4% rate. I'll take that for our backup quarterback. when it comes to rushing here, it's kind of a dog's breakfast here. I mean, Kadeem Carey is leading their team with 37 carries or 204 yards, but I'm going to still say our running game hasn't really been that effective so far this year, plus all the injuries, so it's a dog's breakfast. So when it comes to receiving, well, Reggie Bagleton, who's been the only receiver that's been healthy in the lineup here, he has 704 yards on 49 receptions here, and it says he has 5 touchdowns. I'm not too sure if that concludes yesterday's games. I think it does. So he has 5 touchdowns here. Eric Rogers leads the team with 6 receiving touchdowns. He has 41 catches. He has 450 yards here. So those 2 receivers have actually been in the lineup all season here. Markeith Ambles actually missed the last game, and then Jawan Breskison is on the 6-game list. So we have been having some. Our big 2 receivers has definitely been Reggie Bagleton and Eric Rogers here. And then when it comes to tackles here, Corey Greenwood is leading the team with 69 tackles. And Trey Roberson has 6 interceptions here. And Cordero Law is leading the team with 6 sacks here. So that's just a quick statistical story. Just go to stampeders.com and CFL.ca to see your favorite players and other players where they stack up the league here. So to close it out here was my John Cornish bobblehead here. As yesterday was Legacy Night. It was yesterday when the game, when I'm recording this today, it was Legacy Night, and we honored, recognized all the players in the past here, including John Cornish here, and he had a special limited edition bobblehead here. And I mean, there's John Cornish here. He's a beast. Hopefully he takes that as a compliment, because I definitely said that about him in his playing day here. So that was him and running back here. And on the side here are his big accomplishments here. So he won 2 Grey Cups, 2014 here. He was the top Canadian 3 times. I don't know how he did that 3 years in a row. 2012, 13, and 14 here. And 2013, I think that was his best season. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for us in the Western Final here. Not only he also was the most outstanding player in the CFL and the Lou Marsh winner, which is the top Canadian athlete overall. So 2013 definitely was his finest season. And in 2013, he had 1,813 yards. And that's a record for rushing total in the season here. I know recently Andrew Harris of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, he set a record for most yards in total from scrimmage for a Canadian. So that's the accomplishments there. And of course, Grey Cup Festival. It's the big game, and the big party is here in Calgary. And here's him on the back here. I'm going to keep the box here, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to do a little unboxing here. So here's the styrofoam here. And take the plastic off, and here we are. Here's John Cornish, our running back. Nice detail here. Definitely like the juke and drive here, and there's John Cornish, and then of course representing the red and white in the back there. So yeah, this is definitely nice here, and I'll quickly go off to the side here. Another fine running back that I have a bobblehead of is Kelvin Anderson, so bear with me. So yeah, here's Kelvin Anderson. Yeah, he's a little dusty here, but he was also a fine running back that the Calgary Stampeders had. Definitely made sure he had his golden tooth here. So there's Kelvin Anderson, and here's him on the back here. So I definitely got some Stampeders history here in my bobblehead edition of my Calgary Stampeders this month here. So if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, talking Calgary sports and doing first vlogs here. Just make sure you hit like, subscribe here, and hopefully I'll have some better second half news here as the season goes along here. And I'm going to say maybe we'll win the Grey Cup Roughneck style here, overcoming injuries, gradually getting better. I mean, I personally feel this team is both reloading and rebuilding as we go here, but we definitely still have some big pieces on the sideline here that definitely would make a difference. And I still feel we have the luxury to keep riding Nick Arbuckle until Bo Levi Mitchell is 100% here. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Go Stamps go, and let's take care of those Eskimos on Labor Day.